Good day, everyone. My name is Laurie Gallagher. I was born and raised here in Fort McMurray, and I'm a survivor from the residential school that I was in Grouard, Alberta in 1954. I was there for a year and a half, and I ran away because I couldn't put up with what they were doing. To the Courage to Heal Community Feast. We acknowledge that we were on Treaty 8 territory, the traditional meeting grounds of all the First Nations, Dene, Dakota, Inuit, and Métis, who have left footprints and marked these lands for centuries. It gives me a great honor to ask our Creator to give us His blessing and guidance on this National Indigenous Peoples Day in Canada. Dear Creator, please keep all Indigenous peoples and their families, children, and elders for a long life. Keep our children safe that you have given us, the greatest gift on earth. Please keep everyone safe from the COVID-19 and the variants. Please give Mother Earth thanks for all she has provided, all the water, air, water, and food. I'd like to thank the people that have asked me to say a few words on this great day. May the good Lord bless and keep us all safe until we meet again. And every child matters. Aye, aye.
Welcome. My name is Terry Lynn Fedoris from the Sacred Circle Foundation for Reconciliation. I am an intergenerational survivor and honored to be part of this project. The story you're about to see is one of courage and is just as much for the community where it is underway as it is for every average Albertan and Canadian seeking to find their way to truth and reconciliation. We wish first to acknowledge that our presence here is on the land of Treaty 8, the traditional lands and unceded territory of the Dene Nation, the Cree Nation, and the Métis Nation. These nations of people with rich history and deep connections to this special place continue to make this their home since time immemorial and share this land now with all of those who've made Wood Buffalo their home. With great respect, we're honored to meet you all here today, and we thank you for joining us in this place known to the beautiful Indigenous people from this land as Nistawio. This translates to mean where the three rivers meet. And in saying all of this we intentionally reestablish relationships to the traditional space and place names while acknowledging and giving honor to those whose land we all inhabit. We recognize the sacredness and the power of these waters, after which this community is fondly named. Water is the ultimate giver of life in the ways that we have learnt from our Indigenous brothers and sisters of this land. And so it is out of great respect we come together and honor the Athabasca River, the Snai River, and the Clearwater River in virtual ceremony with you all here today. This message, as all land acknowledgements should be, is a reflection of the genuine work we have done during the development of this project to come into Indigenous ways of knowing and being of this territory, out of which meaningful relationships are built, as well as some of the pathways to truth and reconciliation are unveiled. As always, when offering a traditional territorial land acknowledgement, we gently remind that while anyone can share a land acknowledgement, only certain people have the right to welcome you into the lands, and we encourage you to seek more knowledge about this. Marsi Cho, Hi Hi, and Marsi. This is to say thank you in the Indigenous languages of this land, the Dene Nation, the Cree Nation, and the Métis Nation.
Hi, I'm Rick Wilson, Minister of Indigenous Relations, and this has certainly been a heartbreaking time for all the people of Alberta with the discovery of the 215 graves in Kamloops. And this government is taking real action. The Premier came to me and Minister of Service Alberta right away and asked us to start working on this, and we have. He says, I want to see some action, and that's what we've done. We've done real action. We've reached out to the communities. And I want the communities to be able to drive this and tell us what they need. And the communities have asked us to help them in working towards finding these unmarked graves and to bring back the children that were taken. Because it wasn't that these children went off to boarding school, they were taken from their families, ripped from their mother's arms. And I can't even imagine such a thing happening as a father and a grandfather. I just can't, it's hard to even put words to it. Someone coming to your door taking your child. So let's take this as an opportunity. Let's take this as an opportunity to grieve, because we certainly have to grieve. And I've been to the vigils, and I've sat with the people that have been to residential schools and the survivors and heard their stories. And we need to grieve. We need to get that heaviness off our hearts, but then we need to heal. So we're going to take action right away. I'm working with the Minister of Service Alberta. We've put together some programs. If you want to reclaim your Indigenous name, we're now letting you do that at no fee. You can go to the registries and change your name. There'll be no fee for that. And we've put together some funding that we're working on right now, and that'll be going out to help the communities to work through the reclaiming and finding the names of the people that were lost. It's going to be a lot of work, because over the years, of course, a lot of these names will be lost in different archives. But our ministries are working together, and we're going through the archives that we have, and then we want to help the communities to find the names as well. And we'll get through this together and come out the other side stronger, and we can all work together to be partners in Alberta.
Hello everyone, I'm Don Scott, Mayor of the Regional Municipality of Wood Buffalo. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this important event. I'd like to begin by recognizing that the land on which we live, learn, work, and play is Treaty 8 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree and Dene, and the unceded territory of the Métis. Recently in Kamloops, we saw the terrible truth of residential schools with devastating clarity. But our thoughts and prayers, our sadness and grief are not enough. And that means we must first seek truth and then reconciliation with those who have been harmed. That's why I was pleased to learn about this event and to see students so deeply engaged in learning our collective history. It's about seeking truth and taking action. I want to thank all elders who, as knowledge keepers, are sharing their experiences and knowledge with the broader community and enriching awareness and understanding. And I also want to recognize and honor all residential school survivors. We are deeply sorry for your experiences, and we are here to listen and to support your healing journey. The region is still in the early stages of the path to reconciliation, but projects like this give me tremendous hope that continued work will achieve reconciliation that is truly meaningful for Indigenous peoples in Wood Buffalo and across Canada. As a municipality, we are committed to strengthening partnerships with Indigenous communities and promoting diversity and inclusion. We support the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. We help amplify the message of Indigenous partners in promoting awareness of our collective history through events such as Orange Shirt Day, National Indigenous Languages Day, National Indigenous Peoples Day, and, of course, National Indigenous History Month. We are mindful of the past, and we want to help build a better future, a more respectful future, a future of hope and strength. This is deeply important to Council. We are proud of recent steps such as the creation of the Reconciliation Advisory Circle, Truth and Reconciliation Sharing Circles, the Indigenous Speaker Series, and signage in Cree and Dene. As of last year, for example, all stop signs in the hamlet of Fort Chipewyan are now in Cree, Dene Sioux-Lene, and English. And Indigenous language stop signs have been installed in Fort McKay, Anzac, Conklin, and Janvier. We also launched online Indigenous learning courses for the community. These online courses are required training for all municipal employees, and they're also available to the public. These are initial steps, and they are important ones, but more work is needed. I am hopeful, however, that as we continue building relationships with communities and Indigenous partners, we will get where we need to go as a society to promote healing and understanding. I want to thank you for being leaders in this important work. By learning about our collective history and reconciliation, you are not only increasing your own understanding, but you are increasing knowledge and awareness in your friends, families, and the wider community. And that is key to meaningful reconciliation. Once again, I thank you for all of your work and for inviting me to be a part of this important project. Hi hi, Marcy Cho.
Hello, I'm Tanny Al, MLA for Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo. The treatment of children and families that were part of the Indian residential school system is a sad chapter in our history that has caused intergenerational trauma for far too many. In the spirit of reconciliation, we must all come together and find a way to grieve, heal, and educate ourselves for future generations. By being informed and speaking with others about it, we can collectively heal and continue to work towards reconciliation. Now's the time for all of us to take the initiative and learn more about the residential school system. The residential school system removed Indigenous children from their families, languages, and cultures to assimilate them into Canadian society. Sadly, recent news brought to light that many children also lost their lives. It was horrible and heartbreaking to hear about the remains of 215 children discovered recently at the Kamloops Residential School. My heart goes out to the families whose children never came home. Action 74 of the 94 Truth and Reconciliation Actions call for the federal government to work with churches and Indigenous leaders to let families know where their children or relatives are buried and to respond to their wishes regarding commemoration of beloved family members. Alberta government joined that effort with the intention to fund research into the undocumented deaths and burials of hundreds of Indigenous children who did not make their way home. To build a better future, Canadians have been working towards reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. A part of that is recognizing Orange Shirt Day, a time to spread awareness, self-educate, and reflect on the meaning of this day. Another is to educate ourselves and future generations. Alberta's Minister of Education and all my MLA colleagues understand that reconciliation requires students to face difficult truths about what happened to Indigenous people in residential schools. The forcibly taking of Indigenous children to residential schools is a dark and deplorable part of Canada's history, which is exactly why, for the first time, the new draft curriculum will teach students about residential schools, truth and reconciliation, and ensure students learn First Nations, Métis, and Inuit content in every single grade. Students will also study accounts from residential school survivors like former Grand Chief Wilton Littlechild. Following the ministerial panel on child intervention, Children's Services will continue working on redesigning the kinship care program, which will soon be complete. Alberta's government works closely with Indigenous communities to make reconciliation real and to become partners in prosperity. One example is the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, which makes major revenue streams possible for Indigenous communities. Without it, First Nations and Métis communities and groups would still be hard-pressed to get loans or backing for major natural resource development projects. Another is the Moose Lake Access Management Plan, which presents a way we can protect the environment and treaty rights while making sure we can develop resources for generations to come. We are committed to acts of reconciliation like these and aware how some actions could affect our shared prosperity. Thoughtful, practical conversations about reconciliation will help us on our path forward. In closing, I'd like to thank Sonia Bergsmith and everyone from the Nistawayu Association Friendship Center for giving me the opportunity to speak today on this important subject. Thank you so much, and God bless.
My name is Layla Goodrich. I'm the MLA for Fort McMurray-Lac-La-Biche. Over the past month, as a country and as a region, we have had to face some pretty horrible news. The discovery of the mass graves in Kamloops shone a light into a really dark part of the history of Canada. And while it's been difficult to hear a lot of the stories of the survivors and the ones that didn't make it home, it's been a really good opportunity for us to learn, to listen, and to work towards reconciliation. One of the things that I was very fortunate to get to participate in was a debate that happened here in the legislature in Edmonton to commemorate the lives lost at the Kamloops Residential School and tell the story of a residential school survivor. And while that was a small piece, it was an act towards reconciliation, and I think each and every one of us can do our part to try and make this world a better place and make sure that we never repeat the horrors of the past. Thank you to the Friendship Center for putting this together and for all of the work that you do at putting reconciliation into the forefront. Really do make our community a better place. So thank you.
In the words of Chief Littlechild, former commissioner of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, we all need to continue our journey together to challenge attitudes of racism and prejudice that continue to exist in Alberta and Canada today. We owe at least this to the souls of the lost little ones. Aboriginal communities still face serious issues, including land, treaty rights, education, healthcare, housing, jobs, and environmental threats. Let us seek out and grasp every opportunity to walk together in solidarity and mutual support. It is only by a deep and lasting commitment to one another that will provide the healing and reconciliation we seriously need and deeply desire. The TRC's 94 calls to action are opening the doors for our children to reclaim their identity, and this will happen when we all can come together by accepting and acknowledging the truth, and by understanding the impacts and working together towards healing, so that our youth will be released from the grip of grief and shame to one of connectedness to their culture and identity.
Tansay and Aglenite. My name is Lisa Marie Burke, and I'm the president of the Nistawiau Association Friendship Center. We did a ceremony for the residential school children of Kamloops on June 3rd, 2021, held at the Nistawiau River. We acknowledge that we must change in order to heal our intergenerational traumas. We all need each other to heal each other. When we walk together as one human race, we could all make a difference. Hi hi and Masi Cho, in friendship, see you there. Dinaskaman. Tansay everybody at Glenite. Thanks for coming to support this cause for our residential school kids. And the survivors, and just coming together in unity as one human race. So I'd like to acknowledge Treaty 8 lands that we stand on, home to the Dene, Cree, and Métis people. So I also want to say just a little prayer that Julia Madugu actually taught me. It's Cree. Something that was not ever taught to me was a language. I was always told it was something to be ashamed of and not to admit to it. But things are changing. Our language is coming back and we're becoming stronger and we're resilient and still here. Natawinan, Ninanaskam Tanan, Pimatsuwen, Hi Hi, and Masicho.
Tansay, I am pleased to be here today representing the McMurray Métis. The recent news from Kamloops of the unmarked and unknown grave sites of 215 children has revealed the horrific truth behind the residential schools and has shocked the world. As a Métis person, we know that our First Nation cousins were affected the most by this senseless and moronic residential school system. Many Métis elders in Wood Buffalo were sent to residential schools as well. Many refused to discuss their time spent at those residential schools. But the shocking news from Kamloops has awoken our nation and has brought new strength to those brave survivors who have suffered much too long in silence. Today, I call on Prime Minister Trudeau to put the full capacity of the Government of Canada behind finding all the unmarked graves on all residential schools across this land. When graves like those in Kamloops are discovered, forensic DNA techniques must be used to track down each victim's identity. The remains must be returned to their families or to their sacred traditional territory. Thank you. Hi.
Si inkara hushit dana Mari Adam fortship there dana harquena eitherni. Rediana ele Holland verb I do. Si this by yao Sarah ni the by yao. Asuana ele. Ku atlu se tsure ni atlu dana yasti gosha. Ti dana yasti. The hesti se dana dasarita. Kuli nani te dana her quene dele kuli ne de dati. She is a Sarah ni chutha naiterne. Ayetla de satani or kanachane. Kodi John's tif aste John ot inhe elise henne. Odio yer danagit yon lille. Yeru yeru Fondalak naidenia a cousin he did. And anyway, I should have started this prayer in Dena and as well as in English. O great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds, and whose breath gives life to all the world. Hear me, I come before you, one of your children. I am small and weak, I need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty and make my eyes ever behold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things you have made, my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise so that I may know the things you have taught my people, the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. I seek strength not to be superior to my brothers and sisters, but to be able to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me ever ready. Come to you with clean hands and straight eyes. So when life fades as a fading sunset, my spirit may come to you without shame. No sinner, nor is ke. That's a cause I don't. No canita ta. Sarah ze beyaza no canica ha. Ei de betroni, you nothing dal ahele. Heti da se cuidar nasi. Da na. Ei da ahele. Ei ha betroni. You nothing there is a cuidani yade. Alt nethitseni hello. But to get back to residential school, it was a heartbreaking. Best, my late sister and I were there. I was 8 and she was 9. And they took us away from there. Many times we were hungry. Many times we cried. That was in Fort Chip, but we lived in Fond du Lac. We were in Fort Chip, Alberta. And when you think back, they say you can forgive. Yes, there's a certain amount you can forgive, but you cannot forget for what us children went through, especially the little ones. You cannot imagine what they had gone through before they died. I tried very hard to understand what others had gone through and others that did not go through. Many of them did not go through. And this is one of my 400 nieces. We were hungry. We had a tiny little bowl of porridge for breakfast. For lunch, we had boiled fish, sometimes baked fish. They just don't seem to care how we were fed because we were barely fed. And how long is it going to take the government to apologize for what they had done? That's our children. That's our generation. And what do you think the Prime Minister has to say? Hey, Justin, you hear me? If you would have had to eat fish with guts and all, you would never go back to residential school like I have. So put some food on our plate. Put some food on the children's plate, the ones that need it.
Tante, it's an honor to have been asked to come and speak at this event today. I wish I would have been earlier because I'm really emotional now after listening to the strong Indigenous women who spoke before me. But I guess that kind of sets the tone for the day. 215 children were murdered and buried in a mass grave in an institution that was systematically devised to rob children from their homes and their families and their cultures. And although today is a humbling day and a consistent reminder that despite what the government says, it was only 25 years ago that the last Indian residential school was closed. And in saying that, the government will still state that this is a part of our history, but in fact it is not a part of our history. It's a part of the lives that Indigenous people live every day, because the systemic racism is continual. And it happens every day in our government as they pass aside the impact of the Indian Act, the Indian residential school, the colonization and the assimilation tactics that went alongside with it. You know, each and every one of us has trauma in our lives to some degree, and it's all been passed down by the Indian residential school. Whether your parents went to Indian residential school, whether you went to residential school, our communities are impacted, our children are impacted, our grandchildren are impacted. But we as the seventh generation are on a path to healing, and our resilience is reflected in the faces you see beside you, because we were supposed to be dead, we were supposed to be gone, and we're not. We're an Indigenous, resilient, strong people, and we will continue to grow, and we will continue to thrive, so that all the pain that we've endured in our lives is not in vain. And the lives of the children that were lost in residential school is not in vain. I want to thank everybody here for our non-Indigenous allies and our FNMI brothers and sisters. And I just want to pass the message that although we continue to mourn and although we continue to hurt, that we use that in a positive way and we continue to build the resilience so that our children do not have to go through the same suffering as we do. And as we continue to do that, we'll break the cycle of trauma and the cycle of pain through this 7th generation, as the prophecy was told. Thank you. Hi.
I just want to thank you all for being here today in honor of those poor innocent children that were found and all the children that attended the residential schools. When I got word of it, it was so triggering and so traumatic that it just opened up a big wound again. I am an intergenerational survivor, which means that my father went to residential school as well as my grandma Rose. Lots of people think there's a misconception that residential school was a long time ago and, we should get over it. But its effects are still apparent today. And, the last residential school didn't close its doors until 1996. So, I have friends that attended that school. So it really wasn't that long ago. And the effects of the residential schools still run rampant in our communities today. We have addictions, we have abuse, we have our missing and murdered Indigenous women. There's so many obstacles that we face today that are still stemming from those residential schools. Growing up, I grew up in a very abusive household, and that's because my father went to residential school and, he didn't get that option or that luxury to heal. He came from a different time where healing wasn't possible. It wasn't, not maybe it wasn't possible, but it wasn't so readily available as it is today. And to admit that you needed the healing was seen as a sign of weakness. And in his society, in his community, he couldn't show that weakness. He was a single father. He would have gotten us taken away too. So he really tried to protect us in that way. But because of his unhealed trauma that came out and projected onto my mother and eventually onto us children. My mom left when I was in grade 4 and left us with my father. And my father, threatened us to lie to the courts to stay with him. So we did, and it wasn't long after that the abuse started happening to us. He was very physically, emotionally, spiritually abusive. And because he had his own addictions and, he left us subject and left us prey to predators, these uncles that I had. So I experienced a lot of sexual abuse growing up as well. And this led to my low self-worth and lack of confidence. And in my teens, like when I was 14 years old, I started drinking. By the time I was 15 years old, I was heavily addicted to cocaine and pills. And this led into my 20s. I was very self-destructive. My father passed away early in my 20s, and there was so much stuff I didn't understand. I didn't know why we were getting abused the way we were. I didn't know why my dad was so angry, but so loving at the same time. I'm very much a daddy's girl. He loved me so much, but when it was bad, it was really bad. So because he passed away, I was in active addiction when he did so. I never got answers. I never got to ask him questions of why did this abuse happen. And so he, when the TRC started coming around, the Truth and Reconciliation, they came to Edmonton, and I went there with my grandma, my residential school survivor that's still with me today. And I went there and I learned all about residential schools, and I sat there for hours listening to survivor after survivor and the horrific atrocities that they faced. Growing up, my dad he never said that he went to residential school. He didn't say that. He mentioned a handful of times over the years that he went to boarding school. So growing up, I saw what I saw. I learned what I learned from TV, from, media and stuff. So to me, boarding school was something luxurious. It was something you flew away to Europe for, and, cost money, and it was just so prestigious. I remember going to school and telling my friends, I can't wait to go to boarding school. My dad went to boarding school, as it was something to brag about, because I just didn't understand. So I was always there at the TRC. I listened to those survivors, and there was an elder male that came up, and he told his story. But when he spoke about it, he called residential school boarding school. And just like that, a light went off in my head. It all made sense. All the abuse, everything that he put us through, he also lived through at the hands of those nuns. My dad had such an anger towards the church and didn't believe in going to that middleman. He always said, my girl, if you want to pray directly to Creator. He'll hear you. You don't need that middleman. So, that was the beginning of my healing journey. I turned 30 not too long after, and I walked away from that life of alcohol and drugs. And it was incredible, because I went to Poundmaker's Lodge, and that's where I learned culture. That's where I learned our ceremonies, our medicines, our songs. And that's where I found my healing. I needed to understand first to be able to forgive. And once I found that forgiveness, I seeked that healing through our traditions. And it is through that traditions that I found that healing. And, this isn't something that's new news to us. We knew those kids were there. This is something our survivors have been telling us for years, and only to be silenced. Those 215 children woke up a nation, and now you can't deny it. The whole world knows what happened to our people. But we can get through this. In order to heal it, we must feel it. So together we must walk through this pain, clenching onto our ceremonies, clenching onto our traditions, our medicines, supporting one another. This is medicine, I'm surrounded by the cookums and the aunties surrounding me with love. This is good medicine. Us talking, me sharing my story is healing. This is good medicine. We just must keep practicing that good medicine and healing, sharing our stories of resilience. Because, what? They did try to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds. Hi. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Oh my goodness. I thought it was amazing. You're a good smelling healer.
I was 5 years old when I was put in a convent, in a residential school. I was there for 9 years. And my parents were in a convent too. Holy Angel School, yeah. Yeah, Port Chipuen. I never had any of my family members lost in a convent. but other people did, probably in Fort Chip. So I feel pretty bad about the whole thing.
Want to say to them?
We all have to stick together and be strong and pray for each other to keep going. I know it hurts a lot for all of us to know that this was happening all through the years. Like people just completely forgot everything. You know what I mean? They were happy to get out of there, but the ones that were missed or forgotten or whatever, I hope they find them today. Like, we don't know for sure. We know for sure that things did happen in that convent.
I love your bright colors. Why are these so bright?
The reason why, because it reminds me of the beautiful sky and beautiful color clothing, and I just love bright colors.
And I noticed there's a lot of traditional colors. Was that important to put
For me, it's for the indigenous people in all over the world.
Yeah.
They like bright colors, like even myself, I like bright colors.
Yeah, your paintings really capture that. And I'm curious, like on these two, it kind of like there's this triangle and it looks like a path. Do you think that's kind of like representing the path forward is to, kind of turn on the lights on history?
It kind of walking through and opening up your arms and being happy. That's what it reminds me of.
Okay. And how old are you, Lorraine?
I'm 70 years old.
You're 70 years old. So, and you've been painting for how many years now?
Oh, for about maybe 2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years. Wow. Is there anything else you'd like to add for maybe the youth?
Well, the young people, if you got talent for painting, if you got talent for sports, if you got talent for sewing, talent for education or whatever you have, let it go forward. Keep on going. Look forward to doing more about what you have in your mind and your soul, and for everyone to see or do.
I would like to take this time to express the importance of the Indigenous education as we all work towards reconciliation.
Hi, my name is Colin from Father Turcotte Catholic School. I am in grade 4. My whole school from E to grade 6 made a totem pole. I am proud to be Métis and making this project because it represents my heritage and it represents me.
One Shirt Day to me means honoring residential school survivors and also those who didn't. One Shirt Day is also a day to spread awareness and educate those about what happened in Canada.
I like smudging because it makes me think about positive things and it's very calming.
In the Inuit Games, we learned a lot about teamwork and cooperation.
This year we learned the Inuit leg wrestling. It was used to help them keep up their strength for the summer months when they would do fishing and hunting.
The Moose Hide campaign is to help prevent violence against women and children. Students and teachers wore pins to help spread awareness.
Today, we put ribbons on the teepee to represent the kids who are in residential schools.
The wounds have been opened, and a lot of our people are hurting now. We will go through several more times what we experienced in Kamloops. So we have to stick together, love one another, and be kind to one another. 215 little souls. On day 4, their little spirits will be set free. Chief Joseph Robert. Hi, my name is Terry Lynn Fedoris, and this is Stephanie Minley, and our elder Cleo Reese behind us here. We're the Sacred Circle drummers, and we have a special song here to share with you today. We also wish to share, before we say these words, we've brought a child's drum with us here in order to commemorate each and every child in the nation who was impacted or attended residential school. The song we're about to share with you is a fusion of traditional and modern sound. It's a song of healing, and ultimately it's a song of courage, the Courage to Heal song. Please pray while we sing. Wherever you are, however you're joining us today, or on any other day you see this, pray as you feel compelled in your way and your language. We pray for forgiveness, and we pray for healing in our community and in the nation, for transformative change and truth and reconciliation. Let us pray for help in ways that we do not know or understand. We pray for those who are lost to find peace of mind, to reclaim their identity, and to celebrate who they are. We honor those who came before us, those who've been lost, and we honor everyone. We need healing first, so that we can do things in a good way and with a good heart. That we contribute and offer from our hearts to yours. We encourage you to add words as we sing this song. Fill in the gaps in your mind with the words of healing. Sing them out loud if you like. Send them in prayer so that collectively we can heal with one another. Take comfort in knowing we can come to this time where we can offer thanks on this day and every day.
I'm grateful to be asked to give the prayer towards the courage to heal. My name is Cecile Callio, and I come from Fort McKay First Nation, north of Fort McMurray, Alberta. I will do a prayer in Cree. I'm a Dene in Cree, and so do my best with this prayer. And I just would like to light a smudge here. So smudging is about cleansing. And this is one of the things that we're going through right now. And we pray for hope for better days to come. And this has been really hurtful for our people. So I'm going to start this smudge up. And just think about it as a cleansing right now that we're going through. Cleansing our bodies, our mind, our spirits, our mouth, our eyes, our hearing, our physical part of us, our heart. So this song or this prayer came from my Cree teacher, and I'll just do the best that I can with it. I'm learning my language, so forgive me if I don't say some of the words the way they're supposed to. And my mom, by the way, she spoke her language fluently until she was 5 when she was taken away. And then she didn't understand English, and now actually her and I were in Cree class a couple years ago before COVID, and so she's pretty amazing to be working towards this. So I'm going to take this tobacco up, and I give thanks always for the tobacco offering and the work that it does. There's teachings with it, how it's taken up, to the grandfather, grandmother eagles, to the thunderbirds, to the creator, and then those enrichments come back in that way. Mama wi otawi mau gisimanto, kananas gomtanan, anuch gagisigal, gani wi manan, nianan, kita wasimsak, mina kai kagiao, gota ka asiniwak, ota aski, wichi hinanan, tato ki sigao, tamio pimat siak, ta saki toyak, igwa ta mansi toyak, ta mamawi atoski tamak, tamek, napai win, inta simna nak, ochi oti nigan, kenana skom tanan. So what I said in the English language was, Father of all creation, our great spirit, we thank you for this day. Keep us, we are your children. And all other people here on earth, help us every day to live a good life. Give us wisdom to love one another and to respect one another, to all work together for the betterment of our people in the future. We thank you. And we give thanks for all life and this awakening, and that everything that we will have the direction and the knowledge to know what to do to reconcile things for the 250 children's remains that were found, and the plus more across Canada at other residential schools, and that there can be comfort and peace given, and to our people through such a huge loss. So I give thanks again for all life and the oneness, and I pray for the courage to heal for all our people. Hi. Thank you.